Hello there. My name is Peter Irish. I'm the president of Business Coaching of Northern California, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my story. I've said it's a comedy in 3 acts because that's the way I feel about it, but at least it has a happy ending. So let's begin with Act 1. That has to do with antiquity and what I call the Dark Ages. So let's begin with antiquity. Antiquity has to do with my ancient history. New York, London, rural Pennsylvania, Germany, Virginia, and 2 fairly useless literature degrees from Penn State. The Dark Ages were spent working for corporations, and in many cases they were a lot of fun, but they were dark because I was essentially building businesses for other people. And ultimately, I didn't feel really valued by them. Still, some of these were very large businesses, and they were in very exotic locations. For example, Prague, Vienna, Munich, Dortmund, Salzburg, and Frankfurt. Now let's talk about search tactics. How did I find all of those jobs? Well, one of my first jobs was actually in direct mail. So typically I pursued direct mail. I would send 1,000, maybe 2,000 resumes out. I would get a 2, maybe a 4% response. I'd have some interviews, and boom, I'd have a job offer. And so it went for almost 30 years. I had wonderful jobs, and I had a great deal of success. But at some point, I actually had to reflect on what I was trying to achieve. And this is where the enlightenment comes in. I used a lot of so-called psychographic instruments like Myers-Briggs and HBDI and 360-degree feedback. I built a lot of teams, in fact, Salesforce is 9 times. I certainly had my successes and failures, and I found myself at various places on the sigmoid curve. And at some point, I was a bit disillusioned because my feeling was that corporations did not really have my best interests at heart. Being a high-level manager is precarious, business travel gets old, and at some point the market simply finds you less desirable and less valuable. So as a result, when I came back to the US in 2014, I looked around and spent some money on a reverse headhunter and further direct mail, and then I realized that it was fundamentally time for me to start my own business. But which one and where? I needed some selection criteria. So I sat down and did a little bit of serious soul searching and realized that I really wanted to choose my own customers, work with people I like, earn a good living, utilize my broad business background, help people, like give back, and live wherever I want. So these became my criteria in my job search or in my search for a new business. So I worked with a number of franchise brokers and business brokers, and I considered all sorts of franchise and other kinds of business concepts. Here you see them listed. In fact, there were about 25, and ultimately, I did find one that I really liked. I'm sure you can guess what it is. My process in evaluating business concepts really looked at things like, does the business fit my criteria? Is there a clear USP? Is the pro forma business plan reasonable? Do I believe in the ROI? Is it reasonable for the investment? Do I have enough cash to survive? And is the culture a good fit? Do I like the people? What does my stomach say? Fortunately, at last there was a happy ending. I had excellent support from my franchise broker, and after 25 concepts, endless telephone calls, 5 detailed pro forma business plans, 4 franchise discovery days, I had finally found a home. FocalPoint Business Coaching ticked all the boxes for me. It allowed me to choose my own customers, work with people I like, earn a good living, utilize my broad business background, help people to recognize and resolve their issues, give back, and live wherever I want, in this case, San Francisco. So I have a few last parting comments to those who are considering looking at franchises. The very first thing you should do is invest some time in yourself. Make sure you understand your real emotional needs and that you're willing to push the button and invest in your own business. Franchises do reduce the risk in my experience, and a good franchise broker or consultant can save you a huge amount of pain. So please find one. Thank you so much. This is Peter Irish from Focal Point Business Coaching of Northern California saying goodbye.